1972 was an amazing year for television. So many great shows. It's a wonder that people managed to get things done in the evenings, but the times were different. Simpler in some ways and not so simple in others. Just how ideal things were back then often depends on who you talk to. However, what is certain is that television entertainment was some of the very best there ever was. Let's take a trip back in time and look at the top 10 TV shows from that year, and I bet when we're done, you'll agree with me that these were some of the best TV shows ever. In the number 10 spot was Raymond Burr's follow-up to the classic TV show Perry Mason. This time around, he played Robert T. Ironside, a consultant for the San Francisco Police Department who was paralyzed from the waist down after being shot while on vacation. This TV show, which debuted in 1967, had a very loyal following and would run for 8 seasons on NBC. You know, speaking of loyal followings, the number 9 TV show that year was the long-running Wonderful World of Disney program. Over the years, versions of this TV show ran on all 3 of the major networks, and during the early 70s, it seemed like the show would often play Disney's famous nature films as well as some of their older feature films, which would have been broken into 2 parts. This was a show that my entire family would watch together, and I must admit that I have some incredibly fond feelings for this program because of the quality time that we would all spend together. In the number 8 spot is the classic TV western Gunsmoke. Over the years, this show, which was set in Dodge City, Kansas, had its fair share of highs and lows in the ratings and was almost canceled during the late 60s in favor of keeping, would you believe it, Gilligan's Island. However, a top network executive at CBS, William Paley, was married to a very vocal fan of Gunsmoke, and she couldn't imagine a world where Marshal Matt Dillon, Miss Kitty, and the rest of the crew didn't exist. Because of that, Gilligan's Island was canceled, and it would take another decade or so for the castaways to be finally rescued. The number 7 TV show in 1972 was The Mary Tyler Moore Show. What a cast. Oh my goodness. You know what? Lou Grant was right. That woman had spunk. Does this image look familiar to you? And if so, can you hear the music to this show in your head? The number 6 TV show in the US in 1972 was actually a combination of TV shows called the NBC Sunday Mystery Movie. Airing after The Wonderful World of Disney, this 2-hour show was the best. There was Rock Hudson in Macmillan and Wife, and you had Dennis Weaver as McCloud, and George Peppard as Banachek. And the best part of that show was whenever an episode of Columbo would air. My, oh my, I loved watching those episodes, where from the very beginning, the TV viewers would know who the murderer was, and then watch Peter Falk as Lieutenant Columbo work his magic. This character has to be one of television's greatest ever. In the number 5 spot that year, we find Bridget Loves Bernie, which was a sitcom that told the love story of a Catholic woman and a Jewish man. For some strange reason, despite the show's strong ratings, it was canceled after just 1 season by CBS. The show's stars enjoyed each other's company so much that they actually married after the program left the air. And who can forget Maude? This extremely popular show was perhaps one of the most controversial as well. TV producer Norman Lear seemed to relish taking on the tough topics of the day, and apparently TV viewers were happy to go along for the ride, as this was the 4th most popular show during the 1972 television season. Truthfully, I have to say that I enjoyed Bea Arthur a lot more a decade or so later when she starred in the heartwarming sitcom The Golden Girls. The 3rd most popular show during the 1972 TV season was the venerable crime drama Hawaii Five-0, which aired for 12 seasons beginning in 1968 on CBS. The show starred Jack Lord as Detective Captain Steve McGarrett, the head of a special state police task force in Hawaii. The thing I remember most is the theme music, which was composed by Morton Stevens. It became especially popular during the early 70s. And many episodes in this series would end with McGarrett's catchphrase, "Book 'em, Dano." The number 2 TV show of the year was Sanford and Son, NBC's answer to the number 1 TV show in the nation, which I'll get to in just a moment. Sanford and Son was based on a British sitcom called Steptoe and Son, which starred comedian Red Fox as Fred Sanford, a cantankerous junk dealer who ran his shop along with his conscientious and peacemaking son Lamont, played by Demond Wilson. This was another Norman Lear production, and so the show would tackle topics of the day which often had to do with racial bigotry and other types of bias. This program had a tremendous supporting cast, but my favorite was Aunt Esther, who was played by another great comedian, LaWanda Page. Alright, can you guess the number 1 show in 1972? Well, if you guessed All in the Family, then you probably remember just how much of a phenomenon this TV show was. The entire cast was great, but I have really got to hand it to actor Carroll O'Connor, who somehow found a way to make the character of Archie Bunker lovable, despite all of his many, many shortcomings. You know what show I'm surprised didn't end up in the top 10 in 1972? This one. Yep, The Partridge Family was one of my favorite TV shows growing up, and I just assumed it was everyone else's as well. Oh well, I think time has been pretty darn kind to the memory of that show as well, which after it was canceled played in syndicated reruns for decades. Even as I look at this picture, I can hear the song "Come On Get Happy" in my head. So what do you think? Did you have a favorite TV show in 1972 that I didn't mention? Please take a moment to tell me about it in the comment section, and of course, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I talk about music, movies, and mostly TV from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.